Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This morning we'll consider a bill funding the Departments of Labor, Health and Human Services, Education, and related agencies for fiscal year 2018. I'm pleased to chair this subcommittee and to provide support for important programs that touch the lives of every American. While our lower allocation this year has forced us to make some difficult decisions, I want to remind my colleagues that the cuts we're making today amount to barely 3% of what we had to spend last year and is essentially what we had to spend in fiscal year 2016. And the money this subcommittee gave up helped Congress to fund a needed increase in spending for veterans, an increase that I know everyone on this committee supported. This bill before us today focuses on key national priorities: investing in biomedical research to find cures for diseases like Alzheimer's and cancer, ensuring our country is fully prepared and able to protect our citizens from disease outbreaks or bioterrorism, continuing to support early childhood education, particularly for those at risk, helping first-generation college students prepare for, access, and complete a post-secondary education, and continuing to support people living with disabilities. The bill also preserves funding for popular programs like career and technical education, support to our historically black colleges and universities, programs to help Native Americans, the AmeriCorps program, LIHEAP, and the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. It does so in a fiscally responsible way by living within the agreed-upon budget caps and by eliminating low-priority or unauthorized programs in order to fund high-priorities activities that benefit all Americans. The National Institute of Health, our nation's premier biomedical research agency, is funded at $1.1 billion above last year's level. NIH is working to find cures for Alzheimer's disease, cancer, and develop the next generation of medical treatment through the use of precision medicine techniques. We need to continue to build upon the $2 billion increase we provided in the omnibus this year and last year. I view this mark we set forward today with respect to the NIH as a floor, not a ceiling, for biomedical research funding, and I'm hopeful that this number can increase as the process moves forward. Biodefense and preparedness programs, including new funding to prevent a pandemic flu from occurring, are increased across the bill. We're all aware of the terrible toll that prescription drug and opioid abuse is taking on our nation. I'm proud to say the bill includes another $500 million to continue comprehensive programs to enable states, localities, and tribes to develop anti-opioid initiatives focused on prevention, education, treatment, and recovery services as outlined in the 21st Century Cures Act. Head Start receives a $22 million increase in the bill. Preschool programs are continued at $250 million. The child care programs receive a $4 million increase. Special education programs for students with disabilities are increased by $200 million, which will help local school districts ease the financial burden of providing specialized educational services. TRIO and Gear Up, which help disadvantaged students prepare for and complete college, receive increases of $60 million and $10 million, respectively, over last year. The bill also includes $500 million for the Student Support and Academic Enrichment Grant Program. These funds can be used flexibly by school districts across the country, whether the need is in the area of counseling, computer science instruction, or teacher training and arts programming. Pell Grants are maintained in the bill at a maximum grant of $5,920 per student. The bill also protects the most vulnerable of our nation's people by continuing community services programs, the Low-Income Home Energy Assistance Program, Meals on Wheels, job training programs, and programs supporting Native Americans, veterans, and people living with disabilities. These increases and the preservation of other programs would not have been possible without a generous allocation from our full committee chairman, Chairman Frelinghuysen, who faced a challenging non-defense discretionary number and the difficult task of recommending allocations across the subcommittees. I think he did a remarkable job of balancing priorities, and I want to personally thank him for paying attention to this subcommittee and its needs. I will also note that in this initial allocation, it's the beginning of the congressional funding process. I'm always ready to negotiate with our friends in the Senate and on the other side of the aisle, and I'll be looking for opportunities to enhance our priorities, plug holes, and work together across the aisle and the rotunda as we continue down the path of fiscal year 2018. Frankly, it's my belief that at the end of the legislative process, we will have a product that will win the majority of both Democrats and Republicans, as was the case in FY16 and FY17. Finally, I want to note that the bill protects human life by continuing longstanding prohibitions against federal tax dollars being used to pay for abortion, and including new provisions that will ensure that no tax dollars are used for research on human fetal tissue obtained in abortion. In closing, of course, in addition to thanking my chairman, I also want to thank the ranking member of both the full and subcommittees. Anita Loy and my good friend Rosa DeLore have been remarkable working partners. As a matter of fact, I think the ranking member of the full committee is essentially a member of our subcommittee because she's there every single time. And we're always delighted to have her input and receive her insights. And again, my good friend from Connecticut, we always start this process pretty far apart, but in the last 2 years, we ended up voting for the same bill. Perhaps I would hope we can accomplish that again. My fellow subcommittee members, I also want to thank. They put in a lot of hard work, and I particularly want to single out the staff. Susan Ross, Jennifer Kama, Justin Gibbons, Catherine Selman, and Lori Bias on my staff, Stephen Stiglighter and Robin Giuliano on the Democratic staff for all the hard work they did. Literally yesterday, as we were slogging along thinking we were having a long, hard day, they were working back and forth to try and solve as many issues as they possibly could in the manager's amendment. They were here till well after 1 o'clock last night preparing for today. So as challenging as this has been for us, the reality is it's been more challenging for the staff, and they've acquitted themselves brilliantly, I think, in the process. I think every Cardinal is convinced he has the best chief clerk on the committee. I actually know I have the best chief clerk on the committee in Susan Ross, so I particularly want to thank her. Finally, Mr. Chairman, I'm proud of the bill that I present to you today. It represents a balanced approach that will benefit every American and maintain appropriate stewardship of taxpayer dollars that we've been entrusted with as members of Congress. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back my time.